Hello and welcome to Critical Moves. I'm Joe and I'm here with Big Sid.
Hello, hello. How you doing, Joe? You okay?
I'm great, actually. It's really early here, a little peek behind the veil, but I think I'm best.
Yeah, it's almost midday here. So got the coffee in, got the all the energy drinks you can have, and yeah, ready to rock.
Nice, nice. Okay. Well, everyone, Sid and I are here to talk about new Football Manager 26, but also old Football Manager. We're gonna
Mm.
we're gonna run the gamut here today because it was, maybe forever will be one of my favorite games series. I haven't played 26 yet, but it's a game that I've have an embarrassing amount of hours in. What about you?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's cliche now to say this, but I've actually lost relationships because of this, friendships, relationships, even, jobs because of getting addicted to this game.
I believe it.
Yeah. So it's true. It's true. The stories people tell you, they're all true.
For me, it's one of those few games that it's the only game that really works with my job. I have a job that has like little micro breaks. I do a lot of work on my own type of deal.
Hmm.
And so the way you can holiday in a football manager game in between games is just so great for what I do. So I can work for 8 hours and I'm seriously working. I'm
Yeah.
just as productive as anyone else and I'm just burning through a season.
Yeah. It is one of those games that looks like you're working. Looks like you're doing some sort of admin thing. I mean, minus the match engine,
Yeah.
but any screen you put up, it looks like you're doing some sort of admin thing. So there was
Yeah.
a classic case. I mean, I work in studios and recording studios and things like that. And sometimes I'll have it on next to me, and people will come in and out of the room, and they won't bat an eyelid to what I'm doing. It just doesn't look like you're playing a game, which is funny.
Exactly. That's actually a good time to give a little background. If anyone plugged into the podcast and realized they don't know what we're talking about and is still here, Football Manager is a game about football or soccer if you live in the United States. And you're really in control. You're in control of the whole deal. You're making as many decisions as possible. If you've never played, it's an overwhelming amount of decisions in a way that a game like Dwarf Fortress might be. I mean, you have so much you can do, and you're in charge of everything. And then you get to choose the players, choose how the players train. You can choose how much they make. You can change their positions. You can choose their goals. You can do everything, and then you get to choose how they're going to play in a game, and then you get to see that come to fruition in a match engine that has been evolving. It was fairly stagnant for a while, but that's been one of the major changes in 2026. But for those that have never played, I thought the match engine was good enough before that. It would get to the point where I would honestly rather play my football manager matches than watch real soccer. And I'm a real soccer fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible to think that, all these years, what they've done with the data, because obviously the database, the player database and the staff database is the most in-depth database currently available. And, even real clubs and scouts use the database.
Absolutely.
Which Sports Interactive also provides as a service on the side of making the game as well.
Yeah, I completely believe it.
Yeah.
It's a joke, but people will actually use Football Manager success on their resume.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
look what I've done. I've done the Pentagon. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been stories where I think a few years back, uh, someone who played, the game religiously, uh, thousands of hours, and then they eventually became a real manager, but for that club, for that same club they were
Oh,
managing.
that's hilarious.
So yeah, I love stories like that.
Me too. Okay,
Um,
so tell me, what do you have a favorite version of the game, or was there, or when did you start? Let's start with that. What do you remember what your
well,
first edition was?
yeah. So I was around, say around maybe 9 or 10, I'd say, or maybe 11. I can't quite remember. I went to a family friend's house with my mum back then, and the kids, all together playing, and one of the kids, they had an older brother. He was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time, and he was, one of those sort of, typical teenagers. And I went up to his room, and I realized he was playing something on the computer, kind of like it was that, classic flashing text thing going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of mesmerized what it was. So I went up to him and I asked him, I said, what are you playing? And he said, oh, this is Championship Manager. And I said, what's that? It's all, there's no graphics. I was so used to games having some sort of visual graphic. And he would say, no, no, this is more of a database, data-driven kind of thing. Obviously, try and explain that to a 10-year-old. But ever since that day, I sort of got fascinated by this game, and I don't know what it was about it. Very young age, I was sort of entranced by the game, and the game in question was CM, or Championship Manager 01. So it was the 01, 02. So yeah, 25 years. Wow, I feel really old now.
Wow. Jeez.
So yeah, I bought every single iteration since then. Played every single iteration, even before Steam, even before any sort of those sort of platforms. I made it a mission to buy discs, and add it to my collection, and it was just such a cool thing to have.
Well, cool to me and you. Cool is a
Yeah,
relative
cool.
term.
Cool is yeah, cool is relevant. Yeah.
So my story is similar. Similar-ish. I was into FIFA. I got into FIFA somehow, and I really liked doing the scouting and building a team and whatnot. And somewhere, maybe probably on Reddit, I ran across someone recommending, if you like FIFA, try Football Manager. It'll never be the same. So one of those days I did it, and it was FM12. So shockingly, I'm basically a noob compared to you. Uh, I did FM12, and I hated it for about 30 minutes while I was trying to figure it out. Then I went looking for guides, and I stumbled across somebody that was writing about doing the San Marino challenge. And so one of my first games in the San Marino challenge, for those that don't know, is a game where you would take control of San Marino. They were a team in the lower levels of the Italian league, but they had their own country too. And so my first game that I seriously played was the San Marino Challenge. It's the only game I played that year. That whole year, I just played this one game. I have no idea how many years I played. Built up. Of course, I eventually, once I figured out what I was doing, I won the Italian leagues and became the best league in the world. And I think I got San Marino to a top 100 team, maybe a top 50. I know I made a World Cup. I don't know. I didn't win. I would never say that, but I made a World Cup with them. And, that's been the juice for me ever since. Do you have and that's just one, that's not even what I play now. Like I played the San Marino was my first big game, but I don't even do that challenge anymore because that team is gone. That team is now defunct. But that was what was the real story, the real hook for me, the super dopamine. Do you have something like that? One that caught you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's that's one of the cool things about this game. You know, it is to me, it is kind of like an immersive sim, isn't it? It's like you make your own story, you make your own,
Mhm.
shape your destiny, as it were. But yeah, I took Barnet Football Club, which is a small small-ish kind of football team in England in the low leagues, and basically I took them up a few seasons, kept trying, changing tactics, buying and selling new players, things like that, and eventually I entered, got promoted to the Premier League. I just never stopped from there. It was just this whole addictive nature, that one more turn, that whole game. I'd start at like, 7, 8 in the morning, and before I know it, it would be like 11, 12 o'clock at night. So it was kind of one of those games where it just keeps you going. It keeps you going. I mean, while we're here, actually, I'll talk about a little bit about the history of Football Manager / Championship Manager. They sort of started as Championship Manager in 1992 by two brothers, Paul and Oliver Collier, and they made the very first game, believe it or not, in their bedroom somewhere in Shropshire, in England, and they released the game on several early platforms at the time, including like the Amiga, the Atari ST, before sort of expanding to Windows and consoles later on. And it sold very well. It became one of the most popular football management sims of the late 90s. In 2004, Sports Interactive, Eidos, who were the publishers at the time, they split, and they made a deal that Sports Interactive kept the game's code. Eidos retained the Championship Manager brand. So what happened was Sports Interactive, they continued working on the code and released the very first Football Manager. Meanwhile, Eidos, they sort of kept the Championship Manager brand, and they continued to release Championship Manager, but it wasn't the same Championship Manager as everyone, knew back then. So it wasn't very successful, obviously, as you can imagine, until 2016, which they completely sort of discontinued the franchise. And Football Manager became the dominant one. And as we talked about before, FM became, famous for its sort of massive player database, used even by, real clubs for scouting and things like that. So it was your go-to sort of database for football. And yeah, it's just amazing to me that all these years we're still talking about the franchise.
Wow, I actually learned something. Cities. Thank you,
Really?
sir. I didn't know all that.
Oh, now you know.
Shocking. Yeah,
Now you know.
exactly. Wild. Because, you'll catch people on Reddit talking about the good old days of Championship Manager and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, if you don't know about the game, or if you don't know, I mean, back then, obviously, you might think, oh, I'll buy Championship Manager this year, but you don't know that it's not the same team that's made the game. And you
Mhm.
might not even know Football Manager existed side by side until about 2016.
I didn't know that.
So it was one of those. I remember buying Championship Manager just to check it out. The new Championship Manager. And it wasn't great. It wasn't good. You could tell it wasn't the same thing. But the obviously, the stories like yourselves, the stories of players taking, clubs to Champions League and, things like that, just becomes, that sort of talk of the town, really, amongst FM players, doesn't it? Sort of the water cooler moment,
Okay, so I have multiple questions here. First question, what is your favorite edition? Or do you have an edition that has a sweet spot for you?
Well, I could go back to FM4, really, with the addition of the 2D match engine. That was one of the most exciting things about Football Manager at the time. I was like, wow, I can finally see the players. I can see my tactics. I can see, I didn't have to use my imagination. I didn't have to sort of stare blindly at flashing texts,
Now, I can't even watch the 2D. I did a 3D only here.
Yeah. I mean, since then, we're all now used to the 3D match engine, but I remember for a fair few editions of the game, people just didn't care about the 3D match engine. Everyone just, for a long time, kept on, playing on the 2D match engine.
Yeah, if you've got an old computer, by the way, you're trying to play the game, don't put too many databases, play in the 2D match engine. You can play the game.
You can play the game, yeah. It runs on a potato. It runs on a carrot, whatever you want, it will run.
Anything you can run Doom on, you can run Football Manager.
Yes. In fact, actually, I'll mention there's a massive community with the Championship Manager 01, 02 in particular. That was considered the sort of the magnum opus of the Championship Managers, and you can go and download that kind of abandonware, and you can even update it to the latest database as well. So it's nice to see that there are people that still like that game and still play that game, keeping the game alive, which is quite cool. In fact, I was playing the version a few days ago, and it runs on anything.
That's hilarious. So that's your favorite. Do you have, on when a new edition comes out, do you have a game? Oh, hold on. My favorite is 17 maybe? I don't know exactly. There was one when Miles decided, Miles is the lead developer, I think. Miles Jacobson.
Yes. Yeah.
He decided he wanted to change the way they did regen faces. Regen are new players that come up every year that you can scout or recruit yourself. So he decided he wanted to change the way regen faces worked, so the player faces you saw in the game would look like your little players in the match engine. Great idea. They're terrible at implementing it. The faces look horrible. I don't remember what year that was, but the year before, I had found a mod that changed the way faces worked, and I had the coolest faces ever. And so I didn't even get I got the new edition and went back to the old edition for like 9 months because I couldn't stand the new faces. So I don't know what year that was. I think it was like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. That was my major one. Okay, so back to you. Big Sid, what is your go-to first game? Do you have a go-to first game?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I do is Journeyman. When I load up
Tell us what a journeyman is.
So, good question, actually. A journeyman is you start the game completely blank, unemployed. I even like to set my, my manager stats, the lowest possible. So I'm a, Sunday league footballer experience, kind of thing. Set the lowest settings possible.
I do the same, except I give myself one badge. I'm just like, that's coaching experience. I give myself one because I'm like, even if I decided to do this, I could get one badge.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, one is allowed, right? One is allowed, you know.
Yeah. That's the little thing I do. But keep going.
Yeah,
So your journeyman game.
yeah, and then you start the game, you know, completely unknown. You're a nobody essentially, and all you do in that point of the game just continue, click, you know, click and continue until you know you find job offers, you find something or a club that needs management, and then you take over. And if they, you know, like you, and you know you do your interview well, as they say, you know, you can take up the team and then go from there. But to me, those are the most fun ways of playing Football Manager. I think if you know starting from scratch, because you know at the end of the day, I don't see a point of starting straight from the top. I mean, yes, there are, you know, elements of fun in that. I mean, a lot of people love playing that way, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, I love to sort of start from the bottom and then gradually work my way to the top.
Now, do you have a favorite tactic you use every year, or do you build a new tactic for every team?
Well, not really. I mean, I sort of, depending on my players, you know, my positions of the, you know, the players and things like that. You know, player roles and things. You know, player roles was really sort of basically a big major change in later years. But I'd say maybe the Gegenpress, the 4-2-3-1 Gegenpress, you know, high pressing, quick transitions. You got two defensive midfielders protecting the back four. And it's pretty great if you have sort of really good energetic midfielders and sort of pacey attackers. I find this sort of tactic will, you know, works best if you've got really sort of agile and quick midfielders and attackers. Tactics wise, you know, I like to sort of change every now and again. I don't sort of stick to the same thing. Obviously, in FM26, which we'll talk about later, you have, you know, you're in position now and you're out of position shapes. So now you get to decide what your formation will be in possession of the ball and what your possession will be out of possession of the ball when you don't have the ball. For example, a 4-3-3 when attacking, and then like a 4-1-4-1 kind of shape when defending. But it really requires sort of careful, you know, role assignment and things like that. You really got to know your players, you know, also their roles. But it provides a lot of flexibility.
We could do that sort of in the old games.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for sure,
not
for sure.
you had limited reign with what you could do, but you could be, you know, 3-5-2 in attack and a 5-3-1 in defense. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
but
yeah, it worked. Actually, you know, I actually prefer the old system, believe it or
yeah,
not, because it was kind of less to consider, less to think about. But I'm sure by obviously, you know, playing more and more the new version and you know, getting used to the new system, I'm sure I'll get used to it. But for now, we'll have to wait and see on the pitch, as they say,
yeah.
how players
Let's
will.
keep talking about the new game. So I haven't played it because peek behind the veil, my computer broke 2 months ago. But I got a new one. I'm gonna get it probably, but I'm feeling so down. I'm not excited at all. You can guess why. Sid, can you tell the audience why I'm probably not excited?
Yeah, it came out very, not very warm received. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to sort of talk about the story behind
Yeah.
FM26 and also FM25. So FM25, promised to be this whole new kind of game, Football Manager, with a new engine, the Unity engine. It was going to be the first FM to be built on that engine. It promised, obviously, better graphics, a modern foundation, a modern UI, and for the first time, it was going to include women's football. Over the years, obviously, last few years, women's football has grown in popularity. So it was, it just made sense that FM for the first time would include that. I remember I met Miles Jacobson back in 2017. I went to a Football Manager kind of launch party for FM 2017 at the time. I remember, putting my hand up because he was sort of speaking, and he was said, if you've got any questions, put your hand up. So I put my hand up and I said, "Oh, women's football, when is that coming?" And he sort of said that, we're kind of not looking at that right now, but we just want to make it as best it can be before we include it. So 8 years later, here we are. And we have a fairly good database now for women's football. So what happened then with FM25? Miles simply said that it's not good enough. He wasn't having fun, and that was the most important thing for him, I think. For anyone playing the game, I think having fun was the most important thing for him, and he simply said,
was crazy that they did that, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm still shocked.
Yes, and it was very unprecedented. It was kind of the first time that Football Manager was getting canned.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, it was like halfway through the year. They pushed the date in November. I don't remember the details, but I feel like it was a month before people were looking at the beta, and they were like,
"Where's the
"We're pushing
beta?"
it to February."
Yeah. I remember people
You
were
were all
asking.
like, "Okay."
People are going, where's the beta? Where's the beta? Where's the beta?
Yeah.
So it was kind of, people were questioning the game will ever come out. And then they pushed it to, I think, was it March?
Yeah, February, March, something like that. I feel like they said the first transfer update. It'll come out with the transfer update.
Yes, yeah. And people were basically questioning that because they were saying, if it releases then what's going to happen with 26? Will that get pushed back? And some people were saying maybe that would happen, but then other people were saying no, because of Sega and stuff. They'd have to release another one in the same year. So it was very messy. It was a very messy situation overall, and I was kind of glad that they decided to cancel it. Even though I was disappointed, I was really excited. I was sort of glad that they went ahead and cancelled it. But obviously, as you'll probably find out later, maybe they shouldn't have rushed this one.
Well, before you tell us all the bad stuff, let's start with some sugar. What's the good? Tell us some good.
So the good, you have match engine improvements, so animation, tactical depth, players move lifelike. Some players look up when the ball is being crossed to them. If you sort of look closely, sort of thing it looks more natural, more realistic, less sort of ice skatey.
What's funny is I felt like 24 was light years ahead of some of the other versions in all of that already.
Yeah, I think 24 is still a magnum opus, I think, in terms of, football management. Although, bizarrely, I thought that FM20 shows you more data. I don't know if you remember FM20, during matches, especially, you could customize the look of the in-match highlights, and you could put so much more depth of data in front of you. It was crazy, and I think they started to chop some of that off in the later years, so 21, 22. 23. And then I think they brought some of that back again for 24. So I was happy to see some of that sort of data that was missing come back. Because even though maybe, a lot of people might not care about that data, it's just nice to have. It's nice to see because it does when you see that in-depth information, you sort of you feel like, yes, I am playing a really in-depth simulation of football.
I always felt like the match engine has its own little quirks, and just because something had been happening all game doesn't mean that it was going to continue that way. Just like in real football, a player can suck the whole game and then post something out. But it is good to have that info because you can operate under that. Like
Yeah,
sometimes your best players having a stinker, and you're like, I got to get this guy out. You know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me, what's the good or what's the bad? Sorry, tell me the bad.
The game released in, they called it, I think for the first time, they called it advanced access rather than a beta. I don't know if you noticed that, but instead of they didn't really call it a beta, did they? They sort of called it an advanced access.
Like an advanced preview or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it review bombed instantly with mostly negative on Steam. It was buggy, messy. The UI was clunky. The overhauled interface. I should mention that they moved a lot of stuff around. You didn't have the side panel on the left. You had menus within menus. It was supposed to be easier, but it was very sort of cumbersome and frustrated a lot of long-time players, with the sort of quote unquote broken muscle memory.
Yeah, yeah. They said once you've played it for 20 hours, you'll be good. And the audacity. Look, a lot of players play a game for an hour, 30 minutes. I'm notorious for starting a game, not liking the feel of it, and never playing again. Like within 10 minutes, I'll be like, I'm done with this game. And to think that I'm gonna give it 20 hours when I can't, when none of it makes sense to me, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. And it was just a lot of performance issues. The menus, it would be very, it was very sort of slow and, you clicked on something, it would take like, literally 5 minutes to open. And in fact, they modded it recently. They modded that out, so you could actually download a mod to make the menus kind of more snappier. But I think in the latest update or patch, Sports Interactive actually made an official option for making the menus sort of snappier.
Didn't they have like PowerPoint presentation esque animations in between? Is that what was messing it up? The
Yes,
transitions?
the transitions. It
So
was way
stupid.
too heavy, way too heavy. I mean, I have a 4090.
Oh god.
So even with that, it was struggling, So it was, very badly optimized. I think I think it's all down to the optimization, really, because you can imagine having all that, the animations, the transitions between menus, and things like that. Sort of so much going on that the system at some point struggles.
Yeah, but talk about not knowing your player base. Because I'm telling you, I could not give a crap about that. I'll definitely turn that off. What I want to know is, does the transfer system make sense?
I mean, everything is as it should be in terms of transfers. It's like war and death. So I don't know if you remember FM25. They had this sort of messaging app system
24.
that they in 25 in the last game that was
Oh,
cancelled. It was basically they
okay,
wanted to
sorry.
have like a WhatsApp type of messaging system with the players and agents and things like that.
Oh, interesting.
But they sort of canned that and went back to the inbox, the email system.
This old man can only take so much change.
It's been given a noticeable overhaul. The squad building just sort of feels closer to real world football. You have transfer room integration, so it introduces transfer room style functionality. So it gives you a more clearer view of a player availability and market dynamics. you sort of see now which clubs are actively shopping players, making negotiations sort of much more real, much more
Oh, that
believable.
is nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool that way.
Because you could find that out, but you really had to look to figure out. It was not easy to figure out who was transfer listed, and it did not necessarily make a ton of sense.
Exactly. And when you went in to buy a certain player, you had then you found out how many clubs are actually interested in that player. It was kind of it was quite messy in that sense. But it now has a new recruitment hub, so you can plan your short, medium, long-term squad building, which is really, really helpful. You can um, map out sort of replacements, so you can plan ahead replacements, for aging stars, and tracking potential wonder kids just makes it so much better.
You could do that on your own, but you had to do it with, like, an Excel spreadsheet. That's what I would do. I've got
Yeah,
these old
yeah,
files full of my targets.
yeah. And just more sort of financial realism, budgets and wage structures are sort of more closely tied to club reputation and league status. So it just makes it more sort of realistic.
They used to have a system where the game would rescue a poorly run club. Like, you could start with, I don't know how much the people listening will know football, but Barcelona is a horribly run club. Sorry if you're a Barcelona fan, but they're horribly run, and they're just in mountainous, horrible debt, worse than the British government or the United States government. Just so much piled high debt. And if you check them 3 years into the game on Football Manager, it's all gone. Somehow, somehow they figured out how to pay it all off. And I always hated that because I loved the, like, I have to sell my good overpaid players, and I have to take the $60 million fee that got brought down to 10 and replace it and make a team. And they would,
Absolutely, yeah.
that you just couldn't do that because the game would rescue you
Mm.
without you wanting it. And I can't suspend my disbelief and make that money go away. Once it's there for me. So did they fix that? Nobody probably knows yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you have to just keep playing. I mean, if someone does know about that, send us a message
Yeah,
and
please
tell us about
give
that.
us a comment. Tell
Yeah.
us if they fixed that bugaboo because I hate that. I want those clubs to go bankrupt. I want to have a game where Barcelona doesn't exist and they've reformed as I have no idea what they would name themselves, but of BC Ultras, that's what they'd be. BC Ultra instead.
Some of the things that, people are unhappy about, majorly is the UI. The new UI people aren't really too keen on that, but I'm sure give it time and it will be better, features to that, make it better, make it
Yeah.
snappier, I think they just need some time to fix those issues. But give us more data, please.
Yeah.
Just give us more data. I don't want it to, I just want more data.
I've heard that people think it's built for mobile now, like built for FM Touch.
Yeah, I mean they've got this tile system, don't they? The new UI has the new tile system, so it's obviously built for touch, or iPads and consoles, which is fine. But I just wish that they carried on making a dedicated PC version with a more in-depth sort of menu and sub-menu system. That would have been awesome.
I feel like they're going for Gen Z. If they could figure out a way to improve the story that are generated in it.
Yeah, I just want to see a better sort of new generation as well, maybe. Uh, and yeah, give us more stories, give us more things that happen in the universe. That would be kind of cool. I mean, one thing we didn't touch on actually was the fact that for the first time you can have women's and men's football to be in the same universe. So you can, so you can start, your journeyman save in sort of in the same universe as both women and men's football. So yeah, I thought that was quite a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know what my first women's game would be, but that's definitely very interesting. It's something I'll probably end up checking out later.
I mean, I'm very interested to check it out, but I think I'll wait maybe for the next version
That makes sense.
to see
What
sort of.
season?
Yeah, because I think they'll obviously, add more teams and things like that to the women's database. It'll be, more players, more things to do.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I think it's not obviously as fleshed out as the men's game,
Oh,
and
I didn't
understandably,
even think of that.
yeah, yeah. It's not a one-to-one match.
I need to have 30 leagues loaded minimum.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know about 30. You get the idea. 20. Honestly, 20 leagues minimum.
yeah.
Good leagues too.
Absolutely,
I don't know.
absolutely. There's 14 playable leagues,
Okay.
so in the women's database, and it's sort of spread across sort of 11 nations. So it's roughly around 30, maybe 35, 36,000 players, possibly.
For those that don't know, you could get up to I mean, maybe if you loaded every league, what would you have? Like 500,000 players or something?
Yeah, well,
In the men's league?
yeah, in FM26, it would roughly be, I think, around 800,000.
There you go.
But
Exactly.
that includes coaches and scouts and even
Still.
referees. But still, that's a very large number. There's actually 100 fully playable leagues. And one very important thing we didn't mention really is that for the very first time, we have the Premier League license, and also they're working on bringing the FIFA license into the game, ready for the football, the FIFA World Cup.
This is very important stuff to the old school players. Is being able to see instead of Man United or whatever they're called in the old game,
Yes,
see
yeah.
their actual stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't really even bothered this year with mods and things like that. I'm just sort of playing vanilla because I mostly play in the English leagues anyway. So for the first time, I was sort of really happy about that.
We got to go here, but I don't even hardly play in the English leagues anymore. I That's where I played a lot, but it's almost like they're too easy. I do only journeyman like you, and I like to build up. I'd much rather play in Scotland.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. In the sort of the British Isles or the UK.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, what's before obviously we wrap this up, what has been sort of your highlight signing across the years? Have you got any sort
Oh,
of signings or anything like that?
I'm trying to think if there's a player that has really stuck with me. Oh, you know what? Yes, one year I decided I would spend a day. I was working, and I was like, I'm just gonna spend a day, and I'm gonna reload my youth intake until I get a kid. Because you can get a kid if you're the right age as a coach in your youth intake. And I got a kid in my youth intake after, I don't know, maybe like 100 reloads, which might sound crazy to people, might sound, if you know, 100 reloads is not that bad. And I took the first kid I got. I think they were a pretty good, like they were national team standard. And I think they were either a striker or a winger. And so I was incredibly excited. And I turned them around. I think, I made that kid one of the best players. I think that would be one of my favorites. Also, I've had a couple times where I've had a Wonder Kid, which is a really good player for those that don't know. Really good young player pop up in a league or from a country that doesn't normally get good players, and that's always really fun. So I've had a couple times like that. Like I think one of my favorite players was a kid from Thailand. I don't remember his name, but took him to superstardom, you know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. There was a player called Freddie Adu. This was back in sort of FM 2005 era. He was sort of hyped up to be the next Pele in actual real life, but in FM he dominated my
Yeah,
saves. It was
he was the next Pele in FM.
yeah, he was the next, and he was just the talk of the town amongst all the FM players as well. So his insane stats. And then 10 years later, Guido Vidala. He was a
Okay.
very sort of cheap signing from Boca Juniors at the time,
Yeah.
and he turned into a monster attacking midfielder. And he dominated those saves. I just love like there's a couple of community stories about the Croatian region won the kids.
Yep.
He's,
Yep. Okay, I've got some more. I have you tickled something in my brain there. In the first version I played, there was a midfielder named Lorenzo Kreisetig, or I don't know how to say his name. He was from Italy, and I would play, and I can't tell you how many times I would play him as a lone defensive midfielder, and you would see he's bossing the midfield right now, and he just dominated on that game. And I was so attached to him that I would find him in the lower leagues in like 22 and 21, and I would buy him and let him just be a coach, let him retire and be a
yeah,
coach.
yeah.
Loved that guy.
I just love stories like this. It's also using the data editor sometimes as well can be fun. I have
I had to quit. I did
yeah,
it 1 year. I
yeah,
can't do it. It ruins the
yeah,
game for me. I use
yeah,
it too much.
yeah. And at one point, I was like, you know what? There's no point in playing this anymore if I'm just kind of
Mhm.
editing the data to my liking.
Yep.
There's this one particular, I think, goalkeeping coach that I really wanted in every save. I always wanted to get him because he was like, the absolute best of the best. And I was like, you know what? For this save, I'm going to use the editor to.
Give him a
To try,
contract.
to give him a contract
Yep.
straight away, and
Mhm.
he sort of dominated the sort of goalkeeping coach
It's funny.
ability. It's just things like that. It's just
I
stories
used to
like that.
sign the scout, or I don't know if he was a scout or a coach. I think his name was Paul Montgomery or something like that. I would sign him every year because he was cheap as chips, as they would say, but awesome. Who else? There was a year where Shane Long. Did you play the year where Shane Long was the best player in the game? It
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
something to do
remember
with his
that. Yeah,
stats. That was I'll never forget that. I signed it in the Scottish league and turned him in, and then Barcelona bought him off me or something like that.
but that's yeah. I just love I just love stories like that. I think there was also one year where they had an intro music. Do you remember that?
I
Which I
don't play
can't
with the music
remember.
on.
I can't remember which FM it was. It was one of the later ones, but I remember they tried to do like an intro music, and people people weren't happy about that.
That's funny. Well,
Uh,
FM players are salty. I can't believe they tried to do a big change like this.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, final thoughts regards to FM26.
Give it to me.
I think give it time. Let them cook. It's not going to be perfect straight away by any means. It's nice to see. I mean, a lot of people, yes, it has mostly negative on Steam, but realistically, a lot of people are also enjoying the game. They're
That's
enjoying the.
obviously a major overreaction.
Yes, yes, of course, yeah. I think people just don't like change. People don't like change because the same thing happened with FM4 and. But give it time, one or two maybe iterations, and
Mm.
it'll be good. It'll be good again.
It's also possible that this new edition is much easier for new players to get into. We haven't
Yes.
really thought about that. That's
Yeah.
possible.
I think that was the idea, to make it more accessible, to make it enticing for maybe, FIFA players who play career mode in FIFA.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just EA Sports now. Sorry, EA Sports now, isn't it? So it's it's for those people. I think.
EA Sports sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't played for many years, but yeah, that's a
I think
discussion
of
for
them
another.
as like
Yeah.
the Empire in Star Wars.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So our first advertisement we ever run will not be an EA Sports ad.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm excited about the new FM. Overall, it has its little quirks and things, but I think once you give it time and let them sort of realize their vision of what they want for FM, then we'll see how we go from there.
You know what? Darn it, Sid, you've talked me into playing FM24
Well,
on my new computer.
hopefully you have FM24 because it's been delisted from Steam.
Ah,
So, and
so true.
that's another annoying thing as well. I mean, I can understand licensing and stuff, but they should have at least kept FM24 on there for people who want to go back and play.
Wait. So I can't re-download it?
Oh no, you
I own
can.
it
You can
already?
still, yeah,
Oh,
you can
okay.
still download. If you've already got it in your library, you can download it, but you can't buy
Okay.
it. You can't
Yeah.
purchase it. So, I mean, this is for the people who haven't got it. I mean, there's other key sites possibly, which I won't mention, but
Yeah. You could find it. You
you
can
can
find
find
it.
it. Yes. Um.
All right. Let's get out of here. What do you say?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go and get some more matches in, maybe.
There you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you decide to jump onto the game, please let us know. Tell us who you're going to start with. I'd love to see that in the comments. I promise you I'll respond if you say who you're going to start with. Or tell us if you're going to start with an old game. Tell us about your favorite game. Give us all the details. Or tell us why we should never talk about a sports game again and only do real-time strategy, if that's how you feel. 'Cause
Also,
that's what Al thinks.
yeah. Also, tell us what other sports would be cool to do in a football manager style
Oh, yeah.
game? Because
Or if we don't know about some strategy sports game, tell us about it.
Tell us about that. Maybe we'll talk
Great.
about that in a future episode.
All right, we're out of here. Have a good one, everybody.
See you later.